Welcome back to the University of Life, the 12 Loves. We are now on love number 5. And even though it's 5 ordinally, the 5th one I'm going to explain, it is by no means the 5th most significant, biggest one. In fact, this is one of the 2 biggest. In fact, when you hear the word love, there's a pretty good chance in many contexts that this is the one you're going to think of first. And it's romantic love. We're actually dividing romantic love into 2 different chapters because there are 2 varieties of it. We're taking the first one chronologically and kind of the most famous and kind of the most misunderstood as well. We're going to address this one first. And this one is called, more specifically, romantic illusion. Now, calling it an illusion doesn't mean it's all fake. It is very real. And if you felt it, which I hope you have, it's exciting, right? It's powerful. In fact, it's one of the most powerful emotional and, I guess, physical experiences you can have in life. And it's really rewarding and highly sought after. Can be very pleasant. Can have its downsides as well. But it's big like that. Let me point out a red flag, however. If you fall in love with someone and it is so impossibly sweet and you are like so over the clouds, over the moon happy, and like nothing bad can ever happen again, and it just completes your world and relieves all your stress and fears, well, on one hand, I'm happy for you because, wow, I'm jealous. On the other hand, this can be a big red flag. I will tell you why in a minute so that you can mitigate. You can take a look at yourself and say, yeah, this applies to me. I should do X, Y. Or you can say, no, I'm fine. I'm perfect. This is just true love. Oh my goodness, I'm so enough. However, you should also understand that romantic illusion, there's a big component of it which is in fact an illusion. It's a pleasant one, but it can arouse your feelings in your body, and it can make people look more attractive than they really are. Maybe you get to know them a little bit and realize, oh, what was I thinking? I'm not attracted to that person at all. But your brain, it's, your simple brain, your kind of brainstem, like its number one priority is to preserve the species. So it's trying to get you to not get yourself killed, but more importantly, not let your children, die out, and hopefully make a bunch of babies. So it is twisting your mind around your perception to make that work. So the first way is it changes your perception of attraction and makes people more attractive. And that's not all bad, because sometimes you find someone attractive, you start a relationship, and as you go along, you get to know the actual person better, and maybe you really, really like that person. And that's great. That's a pretty good foundation, as long as some other things align. I'll talk about that later, to start a relationship on. So that's great. Go for it. The second way that romantic illusion influences your perception and kind of clouds your judgment is that it makes the participants in this relationship, it's kind of like the boundary between these 2 distinct individuals blurs away, and suddenly it's like, oh, we're just the same. We like the same music. We like the same TV show. We like the same joke. We're perfect for each other. We're just the same, and it's so impossibly sweet. And again, this is not true. And if the relationship endures, and if you kind of fell for that in the beginning, eventually the real person is going to start emerging through this cloud of illusion that your brain created. And this is when you hear people say, like, where's the man or woman I married? Well, that person never existed. You kind of invented that person, and your brain did it on purpose to trick you, to get you together, to make the babies and procreate and perpetuate the species and all that. Sorry. Hope it works out for the best. You may notice this has parallels to 2 other times in life. Well, one other time in life and one other experience, and that is when you're first born, when you're an infant, you pop out, and you don't really have an awareness of the distinction between you and the whole rest of the world. It's all just you. So if you're like hungry, you're like, wow, and little by little you begin to develop a sense of separation, of this dualism, me and you, and separate and perceive other people. But when you fall in love, and you got that person, it's just so sweet, and you're together, it really gives you that amazing sense of connection that maybe you miss. And it is, like I said, it is so sweet, it's relaxing, it's such a relief to finally have someone you can just be with, and be safe. You don't have to work so hard to impress people and whatever. So, and this may sound a little bit like invested love. Remember, like cathecting, I told you that when you invest yourself in other people, then your sense of self expands to include them as kind of a part of yourself. But here's the thing, with invested love, you're not under the illusion that you're the same person. Like, that's a distinct individual. You just care about them as an individual, and hopefully you respect their individuality and their choices and their differences, and maybe that you even find them exciting and interesting, and that's great. In a romantic illusion, that fades. It's got its purpose, but just know it's not reality. So those are the primary ways that romantic illusion kind of deceives you for its ends purposes, and it's sweet and it's fun. But what you should do about it is just be aware. So when you find yourself in this situation, by all means, if you're a good match, and this is someone you actually want to be with and think you could build something with, enjoy it. Enjoy that person. Love them. Enjoy the thrill. Don't hold back just because you're like, wait a minute, this is fake. You're lying to me. That's not what's going on. It's your brain lying to you. So, but at the same time, really exert yourself to actually get to know that person as well. Find out what they really like and what they really think, so that you don't get disappointed later when the real person comes out. In fact, here I'll read a quote to you. Oh, look, it's another one by Don Miguel Ruiz, who I read you to earlier, and he has an opinion about what kind of person you belong with, beyond the illusion. He says, what is the right woman, the right man? Someone who wants to go in the same direction as you do, someone who is compatible with your views and your values, emotionally, physically, economically, spiritually. And I have another really good quote by Kevin, somebody I'll post in the homework. I need to look it up. It basically says the same thing, but says it maybe even a little bit better. So romantic illusion is exciting. Don't be taken in too much of it. And now let me tell you about that red flag I warned you about. If you fall in love with someone and you're so impossibly happy, and this is the path to happiness, and without it you're just going to be so freaking miserable, then the red flag is there's a big potential chance that you are what's called neurotic. And neurotic, I used to hear that word and I think it sounds like crazy, but it's not necessarily crazy. But it is needy. It's less autonomous, less individual. And so if you need people to reassure you all the time, if you need to have someone who loves you for you to feel good about yourself, that's what I really want you to back up to the last chapter or 2 chapters ago and work on your self-love. If you want to have a really healthy romance, like we're going to talk about in the next video, like a lasting one, you can't have it when you're half a person, when you're relying on the other person to make you complete and make you happy and make life worth living. Granted, it's really sweet to have someone to love. It's the best thing, but it's not everything, and it's not enough on its own. There's this really great book, one of my favorite I've ever read on this. It's mostly on codependence, by Myers, I forget the other guy, Minerth Meyer Clinic, I guess, put it out. It's called Love is a Choice. Brilliant, so readable, so insightful, highly recommended. And in there, they give the best explanation for this. They're like, you might go into, these neurotic people, they might go into a relationship saying, my half person, where I'm incomplete and need someone, plus your half person equals one whole. Oh, but that's not how it works, because human relationships are not addition. They are multiplication. And so if you take a half person, multiply it by another half, you've only got a fourth. And that is going to come out eventually, and you're going to start getting disappointed, if not angry, that person can't make you happy all the time. That is your job. Sorry to say it, it is your job. Now, it's great to have people who help you with that, friends, lovers, whatever, but you've got to take care of yourself. We talked about boundaries last video. This is a boundary you need to draw. Take care of your own happiness as much as you can. It's a learning process. It can take time to learn this, but take responsibility for that. And when someone lets you down, before you get too angry or depressed, pause and say, is it really their fault? Is their responsibility? Or do I need to take myself for a walk and think better thoughts of myself and find an interest to invest in myself and become more complete. And boy, if you do that, you get two complete people. Whoosh. That can be magic. So if you get along and head in the same direction, you both have growth mentalities. That's if you have a growth mentality, which I trust you do because you're on this site and you're watching this video, then for sure find someone else who also wants to grow together and learn and improve forever. Let me add one more thing that I found really interesting in my research. This one comes from Jungian psychology, and specifically I read this in Robert A. Johnson's book. It was probably in the book We. I know he did one, he, she, we, some other things like that. The we one, or us, whichever it's called, is the best. It's really interesting and fascinating. And so Jung believes that there's that each one of us has a male and a female side, right? The yin and the yang. Lots of people believe that, actually. And I think anybody, you understand what that means. It's just like the masculine side, strong, direct, forceful. The feminine, taking. The feminine side, which, like Chinese medicine say that's your left side. The feminine side, it's like more gentle, more giving, softer. It's all just kind of a comparison thing, But anyway, so Jung labels this like the male side of you is the animus, and the female side of you is the anima. And a lot of times in society, and I think this is very true of like American, at least, society these days, and a lot of Western society, we really are much more aware of the masculine side, the animus side. And when we think of power, we think of force and control, and that's masculine power. Whereas feminine power, which really kind of got stamped out, I think in the 1700s, is when we kind of lost our awareness more of that. It's more gentle, but boy, it's deep and it's potent. It is cogent. Like, it really has an influence. But because it's less visible and concrete, a lot of people are less aware of it. Anyway, so let's say you're a man and you're somewhat manly and you're aware of that, or even just medium, but you're not in touch with your feminine side. And so you see some woman over there, and to you that represents like the ideal archetype of femininity. And that's a lot of times what happens with love at first sight. You'll see them, you're like, but what's really going on? This is fascinating. I can't tell you for sure whether it's true or not, but it seems legit enough and it's interesting, so I'll go with it. What's happening is you see there's a representation of feminine, and it activates, like it resonates with your feminine side, and suddenly you're able to experience this part of yourself which you have not had access to before. And so once again, it's illusion, right? Because you're projecting your own feminine side onto this representation, this woman, right? And that can last for a long time. But again, the useful part of this is to be aware of it. And when you see someone who you just love and you're just so attracted and it makes you feel so alive, recognize that there is this I do believe, there's a 90-something% chance that what's happening, if you don't even know this person, what's happening is it's waking up part of you. So let yourself experience this and come to realize that's me. Identify with it. Wear that feeling. Let it become part of yourself so that you can do that more often and enjoy it more often. It's good for you and it helps you become a more complete person and a better partner for other people. As long as we're on this topic, because I think I will forget to mention this before, I have a theory about this. And the theory is about pedophiles. I'm not in their head, but I've seen enough to have an opinion. And let's imagine like there's this song by I forget their name, an English band, where they're like hookers dress up like schoolgirls and the schoolgirls look like hookers, And one of the reasons why people who are into that kind of stuff, are attracted to, women dressed as little girls is because there's an innocence about them, right? You look at a pretty little girl and there's this beautiful innocence, this bright-eyed, life is all ahead of them, purity, right? And that is a beautiful thing. And I remember when I was teaching English in Taiwan, I taught a lot of little kids, and like all Chinese kids were just beautiful. And I thought that probably, that helps us survive by being beautiful, and the fact that adults look at that and say, that is really beautiful, I love that. It helps us love the kids. But these people who get a little twisted, when they're trying to physically consume these children, or hookers that dress up like children or whatever, in an attempt to feel that innocence again themselves, because it is a sweet, sweet feeling, isn't it? Don't you love to see people who, not naive necessarily, but innocent? There's a beauty to that. And so they're trying to consume that in a way, but in doing so, they crush it, they destroy it. It's that whole thing about dissecting a frog and killing to study life, and you kill it in the process. So if you happen to, have those feelings, urges, attractions kind of thing, know this about yourself, that what you really want, you want to experience that innocence inside you. And you can find that. You've kind of gone the wrong direction for a while, but it's never too late to try to turn around and get things right. So please do protect children, because I guess this is a good chapter for this one as well. When we violate these boundaries, sex is not a neutral thing. It's not just like religion saying it's bad. No, it's a mental, psychological, physical, like our brains are wired when you have relations with people to, dump that oxytocin to bond with them. There's no such thing as just free sex. There's always some of that going on. And so if you do this to children, in child abuse, they sense like this is a violation. This is a boundary violation. You don't belong there, and somebody didn't protect them. And don't you know people like this? I know a lot of people. They carry those scars for maybe the rest of their lives, for decades, and it wrecks them. It wrecks them. Please don't do that, and don't support other people, who do. Know that this damaged society so much. Earlier we talked about cathecting, and vulnerability, and being able to, meet someone and trust them and open up your heart and make that amazing like electrical connection. You can't make an electrical connection if the wire is insulated, right? The electricity doesn't go through that plastic, through that rubber. And if people get damaged like this, they put protective insulation on, and it's so much harder to crack open and be loved and love other people and cathect and connect and find the ultimate happiness that love has to offer. So this is serious, serious stuff. And I hope you recognize that, and I hope we can, and the people who have, problems with it, let's get them whatever help we can. And let's start with education, where they, because if they don't want to change, frankly, I don't know how much we're going to have, sex we're going to have, other than putting them in jail, keeping everybody else hopefully safe. But all right, one of my many soapboxes. There you go. Thanks for listening. Do your homework. I'll ask you some questions about your experiences with romantic love, and what you think, who you think your ideal partner is, and some things like that. And then we'll jump on to the next type of love, which is also romantic love, but this is no longer romantic illusion. This is the stuff that lasts, and I'm going to call this one true romance. This is like, how do you carry on that thrill for decades, for the rest of your life? Now, it's not going to be the exact same thrill, but it's some deep, slow-burning, high-quality stuff, and I'll tell you, you want it. So if you want it, watch the next video. I'll tell you how to get it. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Love you.